Welcome to the podcast. This is War of the Words with your host, Wayne Besen. On today's show, Republican Senate candidate Herschel Walker has a secret. Well, three of them, actually. We'll find out what they are. We'll discuss the latest January 6th hearing, which was truly shocking. And guess what? Donald Trump doesn't look very good. We'll then talk about Joe Biden's executive order protecting LGBTQ people from ex-gay conversion therapy. Yeah, that pray away the gay stuff. We will then interview Alvin McEwen, an expert who monitors the religious right. And you won't believe this. The Russians are trashing French and Italian food. Who would have guessed? Let's get started. Enjoy the show.
There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, she didn't know what to do.
You heard it right here first on War of the Words. We finally found the old woman who lives in a shoe. And to our great surprise, it turned out to be Georgia Senate candidate Herschel Walker. Yeah, yesterday the Daily Beast discovered that Walker had a surreptitious son, now 10 years old, that he fathered out of wedlock. This was surprising because one of the reasons Republicans love the former football star is because he likes to preach about personal responsibility. He likes to preach against absentee fathers. Walker, who is black, is especially hard on African-American men. In a 2020 interview, he said, quote, "I want to apologize to the African-American community because the fatherless home is a major problem." Well, today, the Daily Beast discovered that Walker has yet another son with a different woman. Oh, we also learned that he has a secret daughter that's in college. Before it's all said and done, Walker's going to reveal that he's got enough kids to start his own football team. But don't worry, Herschel. Republicans love hypocrites. You'll fit right in. The first two January 6th hearings were amazing. They were riveting, but today was even better. It was mesmerizing. We learned that Donald Trump's hack lawyer, John Eastman, is a full-blown traitor. If anyone needs to go to jail other than Donald Trump himself, it's Eastman. He peddled a wacky theory that Vice President Mike Pence could somehow, miraculously, just single-handedly claim that the electoral slates in several states were illegitimate. Based on what? Based on non-existent voter fraud claims. They were actually pushing the insane idea that one man, Mike Pence, could invalidate millions of votes and declare Trump the winner. Yeah, whatever. I mean, never mind the conflict of interest, that Pence was on the ticket. Never mind that this had never been done before. Never mind that it was a coup d'etat. Donald Trump, Eastman, and their allies like Rudy Giuliani unmercifully pressured Pence to break the law and trash the U.S. Constitution. When explicitly warned that such a scheme would cause chaos and potentially mass violence, Eastman shrugged and said, well, America has a violent history. Yeah, he said this. He didn't care. Apparently, Eastman was A-OK with a constitutional crisis and an election dispute being resolved in the streets of the United States. Yeah, imagine that, the fighting that would have taken place in a nation with 400 million guns. This could easily have spiraled into terrorism. It could easily have spiraled into a civil war. And John Eastman appeared to have no issue with this. He had no issue with the prospect of bloodshed. Paging the Department of Justice arrests John Eastman. He's a menace to society and a direct threat to democracy. Is there anybody in the history of this country that is more un-American or a bigger traitor than John Eastman? Well, perhaps Donald Trump, his boss. Another chilling moment in the hearing came when Donald Trump met with Pence in the Oval Office. It was very tense. Donald Trump had been pressuring for a while Mike Pence to embrace this illegal scheme and declare Trump the winner on January 6th. So I believe it was January 5th, and Pence is in the White House, and he told Donald Trump, I'm not going to play along with Eastman's illegal scheme. I'm not going to single-handedly declare you the president of the United States. And the vice president was worried because he had been a loyal soldier to Donald Trump the entire time. I mean, many people call him a brown noser, an ass kisser. I happen to be one of them. But in this moment of time, Trump did his American duty. He stood not for a man, but for the Constitution. And Pence looked at Trump and said, I can't do this. It's unconstitutional. I don't have the power to decide an election by myself. And Donald Trump, in true dictatorial fashion, said, wouldn't it be cool to have that power? Wow, I was almost speechless. This shows how badly Donald Trump wants to be a dictator, how much he believes in an authoritarian ruler in this country. He doesn't believe in democracy. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I thought I heard it all, but the nonchalantness of this, that was right there, the big reveal in my view. Wouldn't it be cool to have that power? The power to do what? Overthrow democracy. When Pence refused, Trump turned the presidential megaphone against Pence and tried to pressure him publicly and berated him and said, I'm not going to be your friend anymore. I like you, Pence, but maybe not so much if you don't do the right thing, which of course was the wrong thing. And this included Trump's January 6th speech on the ellipse, when he attacked Pence and put enormous pressure on him to declare Trump the winner. And as a result of this pressure, Mike Pence nearly lost his life. The insurrectionists that breached the Capitol came within 40 feet of Mike Pence, 40 feet. And the Proud Boys said if they had gotten their hands on Pence, they would have killed him. Oh, how close America came to a calamity. And surely Trump would have used the lynching of Mike Pence on the gallows erected in front of the Capitol to declare a state of emergency. Then what? God knows what would have happened to our country. Former judge and longtime Republican star Michael Luttig testified today at the January 6th hearing. And Luttig shocked everyone because he said that Trump and his MAGA goons are a clear and present danger to democracy. Their coup isn't over. It's a rolling coup that's ongoing. Let that sink in for a minute. And it's no exaggeration to say that the November elections are more than midterms. It's midnight for democracy in America. If the bad guys win, and they might, they may not need a January 6th because they will manipulate the rules of the presidential election from the inside. We've officially entered the danger zone. Republicans have put in place this week all the pieces they need for a 2024 presidential election coup. In this week's GOP primaries, Republicans chose candidates across America who are peddling Trump's big lie that he won the election and Joe Biden lost and therefore is illegitimate. They just need to repeat the lie over and over in networks like Fox or OAN or Newsmax. Those news outlets don't care about the truth. They care about who's in power. Now, these newly elected undemocratic Republicans that won their primaries this week, they would use these false allegations of fraud to claim votes in key swing states can't be trusted, and therefore they don't count. Their authoritarian solution will be to let biased Republican legislatures decide the winner of the presidential election. And just like that, America is no longer a democracy. The way to stop this rolling coup is to vote like democracy depends on it, because it does. Democrats also need to make clear now, only the people, not Republican plots, decide who leads America. We need to state loud and clear that we will not recognize nor tolerate any attempts to hijack the election with fake claims of voter fraud. Ain't gonna happen. Democracy is worth protecting. Here's another revelation this week that disturbs the hell out of me and should also bother you. We now know why some Republican lawmakers portrayed the January 6th insurrectionists as tourists, because they were the tour guides. That's right, they were the tour guides of these so-called tourists. Wisconsin Congressman Barry Loudermilk gave a tour of the Capitol on January 5th, I believe, to about 15 people, some of whom participated in the insurrection the next day. The excursion was odd because tours of the Capitol were suspended due to COVID. During the walkthrough, the tourists went to parts of the building that most people weren't interested in visiting. They took strange pictures of lawmakers' offices who they targeted the next day. For example, Jared Nadler. Looked like they were doing, maybe surveillance. Here's a clip from the January 6th coup from a man who went on Loudermilk's tour.
There's no escape, Pelosi, Schumer, Nadler. We're coming for you. We're coming in like white on rice for Pelosi, Nadler, Schumer, even you, AOC. We're coming to take you out. We'll pull you out by your hairs. How about that, Pelosi? Might as well make yourself another appointment. I'll get done with you. You're gonna need a sign up on top of that bald head.
Yeah, this guy sounds like a tourist to me. It's just a regular day at Insurrection Park. I'm going to say the obvious now. Elections matter. And Exhibit A is Joe Biden and what he did this week for the LGBTQ community. And he did this at a time when our community is facing attacks by Republicans every day. And we've seen an uptick in violence. President Biden has stepped up and taken a stand. He signed a Pride Month executive order this week that protects the LGBT community from an onslaught of anti-gay and anti-trans election year hate legislation in red states. Most notably, Joe Biden had to step up to counter Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who spearheaded the state's odious Don't Say Gay law, which prohibits teachers from even discussing gender identity or sexual orientation. So if a kid has a gay parent, you can't bring it up. If a kid is going through trouble who's LGBTQ and maybe is contemplating suicide or is depressed, teachers are afraid to do anything now. If teachers bring up the subject, they fear losing their jobs. And if students talk about their sexual orientation or gender identity, they risk maybe not graduating. We had one valedictorian who was giving a graduation speech, and he was told not to bring up his sexual orientation, so he had to replace being gay with, quote, curly hair. Yeah, that's what we're doing right now, like it's 1950 again. There's also an array of legislative assaults on transgender students, including laws to stop transgender girls from competing in high school sports. Going even further, Republicans are trying to pass invasive laws that ban parents from giving their transgender children gender-affirming care recommended by doctors. Could you imagine being a parent in a state like Texas, for example, where you have the governor, this ignoramus, who obviously doesn't know anything about science and is appealing to a right-wing religious fanatical base, who is telling parents that if you do what's right for your kid, if you do what the doctors, what the medical establishment is telling you to do, and what's in the best interest of your child, we're going to go after you. We might take your child away. That's what's happening right now. That's how extreme this is. Now, in the latest twist, Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida is looking into creating an intrusive new law that would punish parents if they took their children to drag shows. I'm not making this up. This is not comedy. This is not Saturday Night Live. This is not Comedy Central. This is no joke. Really, he's going to go after parents that take their kids to innocent drag shows. No word on whether he's also looking into banning kids from going to gun shows. Republicans believe that taking kids to drag shows is somehow, quote, sexualizing them. That's their new word, sexualizing and grooming. Think about that for a moment. Only a repressed, psychosexually damaged Republican would go to a harmless drag show and think of sex. Have you ever thought of sex during a drag show? I've been to many drag shows, never crossed my mind. Now, the rest of us, the normal people, the ones who were raised properly by our parents, are watching drag shows and laughing, while Republicans are apparently lusting. Their bizarre fetishizing says more about their sexual immaturity than it does about drag shows. I mean, let's get real. Republicans' attacks on drag shows are not about protecting children, but projecting their own psychosexual dysfunction. Conservatives are not healthy. They're afraid of sex. It's dirty. It's dangerous. They need help. There are psychiatrists for that. They don't need to be passing laws that are attacking good parents, healthy parents, that understand that these drag shows are almost like clown shows. They're people dressed up in big wigs and makeup and making jokes and dancing around to fun music like ABBA. But no, Republicans, they see dirty, they see sex. Unbelievable how sick these people are. The GOP is a political party that claims to believe in small government. It seems more like a small-minded party that embraces totalitarian government. In Florida, parents are no longer enough. To raise children in the Sunshine State, apparently you need Big Brother. Thankfully, Joe Biden is president. He signed his executive order that bans federal funds from being used for so-called conversion therapy. For those who don't know, these are failed efforts to cure LGBTQ people through prayer and therapy. Sometimes it's referred to as praying away the gay. Almost every group that has ever started as a pray away the gay organization, or so-called ex-gay or conversion therapy, almost every one of these groups has gone out of business. Their leaders have said, you know what, this doesn't work. All the people I tried to cure, including myself, have failed. It's a joke. And yet Republicans continue to promote this lie. If you want more information on this topic, go to my organization, truthwinsout.org, or go to our YouTube channel, YouTube/truthwinsout, and you can see more than 200 videos debunking conversion therapy lies and ex-gay ministries. And these amazing videos, very emotional, very powerful, are now available in Spanish too. And soon we're going to be doing on War of the Words, we're going to be doing a podcast on the danger of conversion therapy. So stay tuned. Anyway, Biden's executive order directs the government to protect LGBTQ youth from this right-wing snake oil, from this conversion therapy, and hopefully it helps end this barbaric practice. Many countries have banned it already, most recently, I think, Canada, and 20 states in the United States of America ban it for minors. Not enough, but this is the United States, and we are up against a lot of religious fanatics who think that they can get rid of their demon of homosexuality. That's what they think. That's actually true. That's what they do. It's called spiritual warfare. Now, it's important to know this is not genuine therapy. It's rejected by every single medical and mental health organization in the world. They all say it's a fraud, it's snake oil, it's harmful, it's destructive. It's psychological voodoo. In some cases, it's highly abusive and a form of torture. In the past, they used a lot of shock treatment and aversion therapy where they'd make someone sniff something like rotten meat while they're showing pictures of gay porn, and the person watching would throw up and they'd have a negative association. It didn't make them straight, it just made them asexual. Torture. And Biden's executive order addresses this. And it would also direct the Federal Trade Commission to decide whether conversion therapy amounts to a deceptive act. And it certainly is a deceptive act. There was a legal case that I was part of a few years back. The Southern Poverty Law Center, a wonderful group, they sued Jews offering new alternatives to homosexuality for consumer fraud. Yeah, this group our acronym was JONAH. A jury decided that this Jewish ex-gay group was bilking and harming its clients. And some weird stuff was going on there. They had counselors that made their clients masturbate in front of mirrors and get undressed. It was supposedly trying to cure them. I don't exactly know how that works, but I do know that it was sexual abuse. Anyway, the jury ruled against JONAH and it was put out of business. So given the history and evidence of these organizations, the FTC has a strong legal foundation to declare that conversion therapy is indeed fraud. That jury in New Jersey already found it to be fraud. They just have to build on that. Biden's order will focus also on suicide prevention and mental health resources for LGBTQ people, particularly youth. And that's going to be very helpful as well, because LGBTQ youth endure a lot. They endure bullies, and they have to go home and listen to all the lies that these politicians are peddling. And they have to go listen to hate preachers who are saying it's a sin. Obviously they distort the Bible when they do that, but that's what they do. The message sent by the White House could not have come at a better time, in my opinion. Not just because it's Pride Month. On my previous podcast, I discussed how Nazis and white supremacists were targeting LGBTQ pride events. 31 members of the hate group Patriot Front were arrested in Idaho last week on their way to a Pride celebration where they had planned to violently riot. Check out that podcast. I think you'll find it very interesting. But this week, the violence continues. In Baltimore, someone or a hate group was burning pride flags on people's houses. This led to a suspected arson. 3 homes were burned to the ground, and 3 people are in the hospital in serious condition. Here is a report from the CBS affiliate in Baltimore.
We heard from the city council member who represents this area. This fire was intentionally set. Police initially told WJZ they were investigating the fire as a hate crime, and the home that burned had pride flags. They later said a pride flag was set on fire at a home across the street on 31st Street around the same time.
This has always been a welcoming community. We always look out for each other.
Leave people alone. Just leave people alone. You don't know how many people have been affected by this.
Reporting live at 7 in North Baltimore, Mike Helgren, WJZ.
Wow, that's terrifying what happened in Baltimore. And additionally, we have an outbreak of pride flags being stolen in Lansing, Michigan. These flag heists come 6 months after Patriot Front placed stickers for recruitment around the city. That's the same hate group that planned the attack in Idaho at Pride. These are scary times. The LGBT community is being specifically targeted by hate groups. We know when political rhetoric by Republicans heats up, people will be hurt. Lives will be lost. Hate crimes will rise. But Republicans don't care. I suspect many GOP leaders actually enjoy the intimidation, harassment, and violence. That's why they stoke it. Given what we are up against, it's wonderful to have a real friend in the White House who has our back, who's on our side. A president who is not just giving lip service, but providing concrete actions to improve our lives. Joe Biden, today you made us proud. I'm glad I voted for you. Speaking of bigotry and hate, we have a special guest today, Alvin McEwen of Holy Bullies and Headless Monsters. It's a website that monitors religious extremism. Alvin, welcome to the show. How did you come up with the name Holy Bullies and Headless Monsters for your website?
Well, Holy Bullies, of course, is the religious right, and Headless Monsters is a term that I came up with for any type of thing, like when you have a belief or an idea, but it's been refuted, it's been shown to be false, but yet you still push it up. And that's pretty much all of the beliefs or all of the narratives the religious right puts out about LGBTQ people.
You know, I've been fortunate. I've been living in New York City, I've been in Chicago, Philadelphia, and very tolerant LGBTQ friendly places. You have been in South Carolina. What has it been like as a gay African-American man in the heart of the old Confederacy, really? I mean, and now we've got the MAGA movement. What has it been like for you in that environment?
I live in South Carolina, but I also live in Columbia, and Columbia is more LGBTQ friendly. And we just had Out Pride, and then October we're going to have General Pride. We have South Carolina Black Pride. We have Charleston Pride. It's a state, but then there are different areas that are different pockets. We form our little pockets, our little groups, and we do have a degree of power. So
it's more mixed than people think in terms of if you're in a good pocket, then life's pretty decent.
Exactly, to a degree. Our state government's a drag because it's majority Republican and everything. But we still know how to basically get what we need and do what we need to get the power that we need. The basic thing is not to be shut down and not to be rendered invisible. Unfortunately, we do have a problem with the attack on the trans folks, but we still fight it the way we can, best way we can.
You mentioned the South, and we're talking about this. The Democrats have had a lot of trouble breaking through in red states. Is there something in your view, having living in South Carolina, that we can do better to reach out and win more votes as Democrats, or is it hopeless at this point? What is your advice?
Well, nothing is hopeless, but it is a bit more, I would say it's less possible because everything's gotten so fragmented now. Trump empowered a lot of ignorance, a lot of stupidity, a lot of con artists that are coming at the moment and basically trying to get their clout and get attention and get money by basically being fools.
Are you surprised with the ascendancy of the white supremacist movement? I mean, they've always been there, but they were kind of, behind the scenes on the dark web. Now, with Donald Trump and his movement, they are coming out of the woodwork and are loud and proud of who they are. Are you surprised by this? And, what's been the impact in South Carolina?
No. Black people already knew this stuff was here. Sometimes, see, that's one thing that people don't get. Certain things mean different things to different groups of people. We've known this. We've seen this. They're just coming out more with it.
But isn't that problematic, though, that they're so open about it? Or is it a relief in a way that they're actually saying what they really believe rather than just smiling? And
I don't know. I think it is. I wouldn't say a relief. It'd be like, okay, whoop-de-doo. We know you. Whoop-de-doo. You ain't fooling anybody but yourself. And all of this goes past Trump. It goes when Obama became president. And it was all about, okay, how do we handle this? And people like Fox News stepped in and they, basically, this guy was pretending to be his friend, whispering in his ear and just leading him to certain areas. That's what Fox News did to a lot of Americans. Like, oh no, it's not you. It is something strange about him. He does hate America. You're not racist. Everything that you're thinking is accurate, no matter how crazy it seems. That's what happened. And that's how we got Donald Trump. And that's where we got now. Fox News scared the crap out of white America.
Well, that's actually a very good description of it. We do have these different media silos. When I first started in the movement, it was easier to reach people because it was mere ignorance. And now we're in a situation where they wear that ignorance with a badge of honor. It's part of the tribe to be hateful. And I find it more difficult to move people now than before because it's not just pure lack of knowledge. It's this, I listen to Fox, I listen to the talk radio, and I'm not going to learn anything. I refuse to learn. I refuse to be a decent person because that's my tribe. And if you found that as well.
Oh, that's been frustrating. What I was doing, it was easy to say that, according to this group is lying, this group is lying. You just presented the facts and you could change some minds. But now it's like, okay, big deal. So what? They're lying. That's our side. Oh, what? They're lying. So what? They're always lying.
Yeah, they just shrug and they go, they don't, there's like, they used to have some shame and embarrassment when they were caught in lies. Now they just smile.
Number one, they're rewarded. Number two, there are no repercussions. I mean, you look at Fox and you find out, well, they lied about this at Fox and this, that, and the other thing. And then Tucker Carlson saying all this stuff every night. And it's, okay, yeah, but what's going to happen? Nothing. He's going to say it's something else another night. There are no repercussions. And that's pretty much what it is. They're getting funded.
Lying is lucrative. The truth, the truth is the road to penury. So Fox News, they're lying all the time. I think it's put the country in a really difficult situation. What is your view of the direction of the country right now? We just had the January 6th insurrection. We have the MAGA movement. We have an election coming up. And now we've got all these mass shootings. What is your view of the direction of America right now?
The only thing that saves us is unpredictability. That's the one thing that saves this country. I mean, on one hand, everybody thought that Hillary Clinton was going to be president, and boom, we got in this cycle. Then on the other hand, everyone thought that Donald Trump was going to be easily reelected, and boom, COVID came and knocked him on his ass. I think that's the one thing that saves this country is how things are unpredictable, that you should never count things out. That's the only thing that's saving us. But it does look a bit bad because people have become lazy, complacent, talking about their freedom, and they don't want to do anything to fight for it. And then look at the voting also with the elections. They're always whining about Congress doesn't do anything for me. But then you turn around and you elect the same people. You elect them when they do the same junk. You got someone like Ted Cruz or Jim Jordan or Marsha Blackburn. They'll act like a fool, show their asses, then get on Fox and talk. That's all.
But they don't learn. It's like a cult. I mean, nothing good is happening in their lives. They keep electing these people that don't represent their own interests, like Ted Cruz. Is it the dumbing down of America? I mean, people just gotten stupider? You mentioned a few minutes ago about the transgender Americans. The Republican Party has resorted to these ugly stereotypes and slanders against the LGBT community. They have had an unprecedented attack on transgender Americans. Is there something the LGBT community can do to sharpen their message, improve our strategy to counter these attacks on transgender people? Or are we just in one of these really strange moments where they're going to gain some traction before they hopefully fail in the long run?
You have to have more people fighting and more people pointing out that this is not anything new. I mean, They're trying to say that, well, trans healthcare is not credible, and so we're going to stop it. This is what they said about gay men. Everything in the playbook against trans folks has been used against gay folks in the past.
And what do you think is causing this explosion of defamatory language, of these slanders against gay men?
Well, it was already there.
It was already there, but it receded for quite some time compared to the way it used to be. And now it's back. What's causing it to come back?
What comes old is comes new. It's like music. They've always used as children. That's how they won Prop 8 in California in 2008.
Right.
They connected it with dangers to children. That's how they do the anti-trans bathroom issues. Our problem is that we don't connect and we don't fight it on. We don't call it out and we don't meet it head on. That's always been our biggest problem.
Yeah. I mean, the great irony is the right is calling us groomers, and yet the Southern Baptist Convention just put out a report a couple of weeks ago that said flat out that they were groomers, people working in the church and the preachers. They were molesting children, and when people complained about it, the victims were silenced. And so the very people making these accusations, the very base of the religious right, they're not protecting children. It seems to me they're projecting to hide their own behavior.
Well, it's not about protecting children. It's never been about protecting children. It's about using children as a dodge to attack us, to basically smear us and to try to undermine our rights.
You know, if I wanted to make real money today, I would go to Focus on the Family and say, I've changed and discovered the Lord, and now I'm straight, and I'm going to marry a woman. Man, I get hired in a second. I'd make some serious money doing that. But of course, I'm not going to, I'd rather eat out of a garbage can, and I have integrity and I wouldn't do that. But there are people who, kind of do sell their soul. And Candace Owens, I saw her on Tucker Carlson, and I'm like thinking, yeah, I mean, it's a good living if you can stomach it.
That's a fact. I have a friend who was a pundit who was told that if he had this huge change and announced it on TV, he'd get a lot more money, and he get a lot more, like if he's like, oh, I'm liberal, I was liberal, but I'm conservative because liberals are too blah, blah, blah. He would get a lot more money, he would get a lot more attention, but he wouldn't do that. So yeah, it is a racket.
If you could change one thing in the LGBTQ movement, what would it be?
There needs to be more trust, because I think different groups don't trust each other. And we think that because our segment has been beat upon, we can get away with saying things to other people that we shouldn't. We still should show some common decency, some common courtesy, some respect, and trust each other, because there is no reason why, if you get, like, say, different factions, that, gay men, lesbians, transgender folks, bisexuals, if we get together and we call ourselves discussing, there is no reason why we should be sniping at each other. We're basically, we're in the same boat, and we got the same people trying to drill holes in those boats. But no, you want to talk, you want to get mad because you felt this and you felt that, and you felt that this isn't getting much attention, and you felt that this name, this did not include you, and that sort of thing. There's some way that we've got to establish trust with each other. We can't work with each other if we don't trust each other, and there is a serious problematic thing with trust.
Alvin McEwen, the founder of Holy Bullies and Headless Monsters, one of the great blogs that's debunking the right. Thank you for giving us a sense of hope there. And what I love about you is you're a fighter. And I'd love being in the trenches with you fighting against these guys. And it gives me confidence that we're going to come out ahead and victorious in the end.
Well, it's fun. Well, we always win. It's not an easy win. People want easy wins, but sometimes you got your knees get skinned up and you got blood on your elbows and you dust it up, but you win. That's the point. Just win, baby.
That's right. We have no choice because the alternative is terrifying.
And that's just it.
We will end today's show with Dmitry Medvedev. He's the former Russian president and Putin crony who disparaged French, German, and Italian leaders as, quote, European connoisseurs of frogs, liverwurst, and pasta. Seriously, Russia wants to compare its grub to French and Italian food? Seriously, really? I mean, maybe they have a point with German cuisine, but if you're going to attack the French and Italians, their food probably isn't a good place to start. I'm not saying that Russian food is bad if you're into goulash or borscht, but it's an acquired taste, more of an exotic specialty cuisine. It's not bad, but you can find Italian or French restaurants in every corner of the globe. No matter how podunk the town, you'll find an Italian restaurant. If you travel the world, you find pasta or pizza in remote villages in the middle of nowhere. And French restaurants? They're among the best and most popular in every major city in the world. Every big city I've lived in, if you want to go celebrate somewhere nice and fancy, it's French food. Russian grub, on the other hand, hasn't quite taken off in the same way. You must search for Russian restaurants. There are nooks and crannies. They are difficult to find, and maybe there's a reason why. Medvedev insults the French for eating frogs. That's actually a testament to how damn good their cuisine is. They can turn a swamp creature into a delicacy. That's not easy. It's an art form. Let's see what the Kremlin can do with Kermit. Good luck. Russian propaganda is typically over the top and absurd. But Russians attacking the Italians and French in cuisine? Well, that takes the souffle. This is War of the Words with Wayne Besen. Thank you so much for joining me today. Let your friends know about this podcast. We're available on all major platforms, including Apple, Spotify, and Anchor. Until we meet again, see you next time.